समस्त जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. Okay, we start chapter 16 today, and we will start with the introduction. You see, the chapter 16 is all about values. Now, today, there is a whole lot of people who say that my values are different, your values are different, somebody else's values are something else. Right, they are. But basically, all religions, all ethical codes around the world, even those that have been made thousands of years before, even they basically, generally speaking, have similar value systems. And what was good then is good now. What was considered bad then is considered bad now, even now. So then that kind of a good man is a good man and a bad man is a bad man even today. Okay. Now then, see, the Geeta classifies, actions and values lived by the society into three different categories. Now, these three categories, the Gita classifies as Dev, Asura, and Rakshas. Okay, you've got all this in your introduction, huh? So you don't need to write anything, just listen. Now, Deva are people who live very high moral values. There are people in society, you know that, they live very selflessly. They are always the givers in society. They are always people who do for others, feel for others, they have compassion, they have pity, and they live by very high value systems in life. They are called Deva. Then there is a second category called Asura. Sura means Devata, and Asur is the opposite of that. Asur. That means they do not have all the positive qualities that the devatas have. They do not have selfless the devatas have, but they are not also that bad. They don't harm people. Maybe they live selfishly, but they do not harm people, and they are asur. The third category is rakshasa. Okay, now rakshasa is the opposite of sakshara. If you write it in Hindi or in Sanskrit, the Rakshasa, Sakshara will come that way. So Sakshara means who is truly educated in all spheres of life, including the value systems. And Rakshasa are those who are neither literate nor educated in any way, but they are more akin to ferocious animals who live only for themselves, to feed themselves, and even if they have to kill to satisfy their hunger, they will do it. Right? So then that category is called Rakshasa. So these are the three: Deva, Asur, and Rakshasa. Okay. Now then also, see, the kind of temperament you have, generally you get the similar kind of field to operate, and you get those kind of suitable situations and circumstances where you can uh, explicitly live the kind of values that you have with you. Now, then there are other people who have said that Hinduism, there's a charge level at Hinduism that they are so much into self development that each individual becomes a single entity and they do not care for society at large, and therefore they have nothing to do with values or value systems. They just live for themselves. But that is not true. Here you have the 16th chapter, which has got a whole set of values given to you, which are similar to any other system the world around, any other religion the world around. In fact, even higher, I would say, because it categorically lists values. Okay. Now, here you see in chapter 9, then you will say, why is there a repetition? Because there's values are there in chapter 9, they are in chapter 13, 14, and 15. So why then should it be repeated again? Because repetition generally is not the genre of the scriptures. But here, why it is so, that in chapter 9 they have just mildly been touched upon, and in 13, 14, 15 they have also been touched upon, a little elaborated, but not into detail. Whereas in the 16th chapter, values have been given in detail, and that's why it is here. So these moral ethical values are here. Now the question also arises, as a lot of people in today's generation ask, that what is the benefit of leading these values? Why should we? Haven't you heard the typical thing? Why should we respect elders? We are elders ourselves now. We know what is what. Hmm? You've also heard that why should I tell the truth? If I can get about success in my life by telling lies, and I can save myself from a lot of things by telling lies, why should I tell? Why should I not tell lies? So those kind of questions are put up by youngsters today. And here in the 16th chapter, Geeta gives an answer to all that. And in your introduction, it very categorically, Swamiji has written the introduction, and he says that living the values have a value in your life. And what is the value? That it is a prerequisite, a compulsory, necessary prerequisite to your spiritual development or your evolution as a human being, from animal to man to God man. So, if you want to perfect yourself, if you want to progress spiritually, you have to live values. If you are a valueless person and you do not live these kind of things, you are harming others, living very selfishly, living only for yourself, not caring about anybody's sorrow, then you are not man enough to progress spiritually. So that is the purpose of values. Okay. Now then, mm, your behavior in life. I see the last sentence over here in the introduction. It says that the qualities enumerated here are the result of scientific observations made in the physical, mental, and intellectual behaviors when life, the knower, pulsates through a disciplined or an undisciplined field of experience. So this is very, very important, that you live the values so that you progress. Now you come to the first chapter, to the 16th chapter, sorry. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Abhayam Sattva Sanshuddhin De Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi Danam Damascha Yajnascha Swadhyayastapa Arjavam. It says fearlessness. In this verse, 10 values are given out. What are they? Fearlessness, purity of heart, steadfastness in the yoga of knowledge, almsgiving, control of the senses, sacrifice, study of the Shastras, austerity, and straightforwardness. Okay, now these are the values, but you will notice that some people are born with these values. Since childhood, they have them. Some people are born into families which inculcate these values. There are some people in whose family half the values are lived, half of these are lived, half of them are not lived. And there are some in which none of them is lived. By birth, none of them is lived, right? So then you notice over here all the noble traits which a cultured man, a Hindu cultured man, who has the thing to call himself a Hindu, he must live by these values. Now, I'm coming to the first one, which is fearlessness. Okay. Amongst the Kshatriyas, fearlessness is taught by birth, because if they do not have fearlessness, they cannot go into battle. They cannot fight for the rights of others because they fear being harmed themselves. You got it? Okay, then what causes fear? What causes fear is ignorance of the future. Generally, ignorance, when you do not know what lies ahead for you, that causes fear. That is why people are all the time afraid of the future, isn't it? पता नहीं क्या होगा, पता नहीं क्या होगा, God knows what is going to happen. And then they imagine all kinds of things. This can happen, that can happen, that can happen, projecting situations which will cause fear. Right? Now, that is a very, that some people have that kind of habit of projecting fear into the future because they do not know what the future is. But then the answer to this is that, you see, how do you get abhayam? When you understand and realize that you do not run the world, there is a great, grand power, a very, very great power that runs the entire world. And why, unless you deserve it, why should it get up and kick you? It will not harm you unless you really have deeds in the past because of which harm needs to come to you. It will come to you. But if you have that thing that, you know, that power is protecting me, he's always there for me, then why do you want to even know the unknown? The fear of the unknown, when there is something unknown, ignorance, it will cause fear. To give you an example, if any one of your child has not reached home at night, you waiting, cell phones are not there in, and there is no way you can find out where that child is, what that child is doing, and how is he coming back. What happens then? Generally, the parents project fearful situations. Isn't that so? The people start projecting fearful situations. Oh, I hope there hasn't been an accident. Oh, I wonder he's got company to come home. I hope he has had his dinner or not. I hope that. So, all that you project, none of it may be true, but you project it. As very wisely said by somebody, that most of the things that you were afraid of, 90% of those things never happen. But you project that fear because you do not know the future. So, this. So, fearlessness, the quality, comes only when absolutely you have faith in your creator, you have faith in your goodness, you have faith in the goodness of the world order. You will get, and you have faith in the cause for which you are struggling or fighting. Then, if it's a noble cause, you don't fear. You know, soldiers don't even fear death. Think about it. So, now then the next is purity of heart. Okay. Now then over here, see, any amount of purity that you may have in your inner personality does not excuse you to dirty the surroundings around you. Now, in Hinduism, there is a lot of insistence on mental purity, inner purity. And to such an extent, there is insistence on purity that people have forgotten that outside purity is just as important. Unless and until there is decluttering of the situations or the atmosphere around you, unless and until there is no dirt or filth lying anywhere around you, your house is neat and clean. It is different from luxurious, mind you. I am not saying luxurious. It may be a poor man's house, but it can be clean. The result is that in India, mostly the surroundings have become so filthy that people just don't care. They will sweep their house clean. They will sweep their kitchen clean. Hmm? Just see Hindu kitchens, most of them, sparkling clean. The utensils will be sparkling clean, everything clean. Outside the house, they will pick up all the filth and go and put the garbage right in front of their house. So that kind, whereas the Gita very clearly says that cleanliness in all spheres, inner and outer purity is important. It is not just mental purity. Now, then, mental purity also is very, very important. I'll come to it later when we discuss that because there is a repetition of this purity word. Now, then, the next is steadfastness in devotion to knowledge. Okay. Now, steadfastness in devotion to knowledge. See, all the time we are bothered about the body. We are so caught up with the body, mind, and intellect. I want. My mind needs, my emotions need fulfillment. Okay, my ideas need expression. I want to eat this. I want to hear this. I want to smell this. I want to see this. And most of the people are so much enslaved by sensuality and their senses that they forget that there is here, see, the Gita says devotion to knowledge. Look at the word used, devotion. Devotion means that every day, definitely, you must study the scriptures. Every day, many people say, हाँ जी एक दिन कर लिया अभी ठीक है, सत्संग गए थे सुन लिया ठीक है. None of that. Gurudev used to also insist that every single day you have to set time for yourself. You need to get away from all kind of attractions in life that your mind runs towards or your body runs towards. Withdraw at least for some time during the day. Keep that special time as a gift to yourself. And in that, then substitute the lower for the higher. In your mind, substitute every lower value by the higher values and live them, study them, and practice them. Okay. Now, then next comes charity. Charity, restraint of the senses and sacrifice. Yeah, they are dealing with three together. But first, let's take charity. Okay. Hmm. A lot of importance is given to charity in Hinduism. There are a lot of moneyed people who do extensive charity. They will hold eye operation camps. Some people donate money for poor people who cannot have cancer operations done. Some people feed the poor, Annadanam, Mahadanam. Some people, well, charity is given for various purposes. But you will be surprised that in how much of detail charity is dealt with in our scriptures. Charity is classified into 24 different types of charity. Okay. And just to, I am not going into the details of those 24, but I am giving you a few of them. They say that no man has the right only to live for himself. Otherwise, he is considered a thief. He must care for other people who cannot afford to eat, who cannot afford to dress themselves, who cannot afford various other things. Some people give only for educational causes, some people give for health causes, some people give to the poor, no matter what they do. Again, see, in our scriptures, it is very clearly given. When you give, whether you're giving to the lowliest of the low, you must give it with respect. Be grateful that he has accepted your charity. Okay? Because you then become the giver and he becomes the taker. So, in that very act is inherent a little bit of subjugation of the person to whom you are giving it, isn't it? Even when you do a favor to somebody, that somebody becomes the receiver. So he says, give with your eyes closed. Don't boast ever about what you have given. People should not know what you have given. Some people give and then they talk about it all over. So they say in our scriptures that the punya of that is lessened. The punya of that good act becomes less if you give charity like that. Then they said, never insult the person. You know, how do you insult? By saying something rude and then giving. Right? Giving by throwing it at him. All these things, this is all nishedh in Hinduism. Look at the details to which they go. Also, the third category of giving. If you give expecting something in return, that is not giving. That is a barter system. It is commerce. It is trade. I give you this, you give me that. है ना? तो वो गिविंग नहीं है. It is not considered as giving, whether it is an act of monetary charity or it is help of any kind. See, I'll give you an example. At night, your neighbor falls sick and he rings you up that, can you please come and help taking this person to the hospital? And you very readily get up, charitable on your part. You get up, pick up that person, go and deposit him to the hospital, see he is admitted properly, all that you do. And then the thought comes into your mind that I have done this today for him. Supposing today something like that happens to me, then he will also come and help me. What is that act? You have degraded that act into a barter. It is a commerce. Because in your mind, this thought has come that I have done for him today, and that becomes an investment for a return of the similar act for you, isn't it? So the highest form of giving is when you give without any expectation, when you give to the person who actually is needy. That onus is on you. Some people also say, you know what they say? I have given with good intention. After that, whatever that chap does with that money is his karma. Yes, it is his karma also, but you are not absolved from it in Hinduism. You are supposed to check and verify that the place where you are giving charity, it is properly utilized. See, the onus is on you. So if you are giving to a drug addict, what are you doing? You are helping him become more of a drug addict, isn't it? So be very careful where you put your money or to whom you are doing the good act. That person should be deserving. Secondly, it should be done totally selflessly, and there should be absolutely no name. Okay, and that is why in Hinduism there is something called Guptadan. Guptadan means giving where you neither know how much you have given. Look at the subtleness of the दान, कि तुमको ये भी नहीं मालूम चले कि तुमने कितना दिया. Otherwise, even that fattens the ego. See, I gave so much. Hmm? Hmm. I distributed so many blankets in the winters. This is a common thing a lot of people do. But agar wo ahem aa jaye, I have given to so many people. Kya reh gaya? Carefully. So then that daan also is not a proper sattvic daan. Okay? You have to give totally selflessly, not talk about it, not boast about it, and also many times not even know how much you have given. Many people don't do it with their own hands. They depute somebody to do it for them so that they don't even see the face of that person to whom they've given it. So that when they meet that person next, that person feels humiliated and you feel elated. No, even that should not be there, isn't it? So, most of the people क्या करते हैं, थोड़ा सा दान दे दिया तो जिसको दिया उसके सामने थोड़ी छाती चौड़ी करके और चलते हैं. I am the giver, you are the you are the receiver. Not like that. Look at the subtle points in which all this is listed in our scriptures. A person who has progeny, children to look after, or maybe not even the children, may be grown up looking after themselves. Even he, if there are heirs to the family, the head of the family has got no right to give everything into charity. Some people do that, na? That before I die, I will give everything away in charity. So a person who has children means even grown up children, or any heir to the family's future, has no right to give away everything. Just see. Also, it is listed that if a man gives charity when his family is in need, great need of that money, and he deprives the family and gives the money, that is also nishedha in Hinduism. Think about it. Think about it. How much of detail they have gone into this one word, one value of charity. कैसे देना, क्या नहीं देना. The quality of charity, your mental condition while giving charity, all that is taken into account in Hinduism. It's not just give charity. Yes, though they do say that charity given in any possible way, yena kena prakarena, they say, दान करे कल्याण. ठीक है, तो दान ही है. No matter how you give it, where you give it, when you give it, to whom you give it, and with what mental attitude you give it. But all these conditions will condition the result of that daan. So you need to give the best possible daan. Okay, charity हो गया. Now restrain of the senses. देखो, unless you restrain the senses, you cannot restrain the inner impulses. So the restraint of the senses is very important. All the 5 senses that you have. ठीक है? Even the karmendriyas come into senses. वो भी इंद्रियां हैं. They also come into the senses. So any action which is not sanctioned by your intellect should not be performed by the body. Any action that you think will disturb your inner poise should not be performed by the senses. Like saying something rude, bad, or hurting to somebody. So what are you doing? The tongue has played its part in hurting somebody. Violence ho gaya na? Don't do it. That is restraining the sense. Okay? Seeing something which is ugly, which is violent, which is immoral, if you see it, it becomes part of your mental tendency. It will feed your mind. Don't see it. That is called restraint of the senses. Don't hear criticism of others with your ears. If you hear too much of criticism with your ears, that also creates an impurity in your mind. Just see how subtle all this is, how subtle these values are. It is not only that much कि जी मैं नहीं करता, अरे आप नहीं करते बुराई, आप सुन तो रहे हैं. I know people who just move away from there when somebody is being criticized. They don't even hear. They say we don't want to hear because it disturbs our mind. Seeing, the internet, the web, the thing is full of television, media, newspapers, magazines are full of violence and robbery and plunder and rape and wars and all that. So, if you restrain your senses from reading in detail about these things, definitely you should know what's happening in the world, but you don't need to gloat over it and read every bit of it कि ऐसे हुआ कैसे हुआ क्यों हुआ. If it doesn't affect you, you can you do something about it? No. So don't. That is restraining of the eyes. ठीक है ना? So like that, restraining of all the senses. Then the karmendriyas. Karmendriyas also, all of them, they can perform wrong or vulgar actions, and they can perform righteous deeds, noble deeds, right? So then you should restrain it from doing anything wrong. So restraint of the senses comes here. And restraint of the senses, even sacrifice. देखिए sacrifice जो है, these days people really almost don't know the meaning of this word. The word sacrifice is a big thing. People don't live by it anymore. They say, I am for myself. This is the great philosophy going around today, that me for myself, or maximum me, my wife, and my children. Beyond that, the world doesn't exist for them. Think about it. Think about it. So, this sacrifice is when you need it and yet you give it away. That is sacrifice. ठीक है ना? Something benefits you and your family, but you think someone else needs it more. You give that away. That is called sacrifice. ठीक है? Even these days, so even in a marriage between a husband and wife, whereas Hindu scriptures teach that husband and wife are absolutely one, ठीक है ना? Absolutely one. वो पंडित लोग ना जब शादी होती है, there are there are two containers of water, and they tell the couple to mix the water of both the containers, meaning to say that now you are absolutely one in spirit, in form, in life, in everything. You are one. And you cannot now be separated. It will be like tearing the flesh into two. That was the value. And what are the values today? Husband and wife also. Hmm? Hmm. This is my toothpaste tube. Why did you touch it? You got yours. This is mine. That is yours. We teach these values of sacrifice right in the home. In the Hindu homes, these values are taught. पहले क्या होता था? Father used to bring one chocolate, one big chocolate, give it to the eldest child, and say, now share it with your brothers, sisters. And that child had the onus to share that. So, what is the father taught? Father is taught the virtue of sacrificing for others. Whereas अब क्या होता है? The fathers come, if there are 3 children, he will bring 3 chocolates. One for you, one for you, one for you. And don't share it. This is all yours. है ना? So just come to think about it. Just think about it, that this sacrifice also. Marriage is a huge sacrifice. Gurudev wrote that in one of his letters to a young couple. He wrote the letter to their mother saying that tell the children that another name for marriage is sacrifice. Gurudev's blessing came like that. tell the children that the other word for marriage is sacrifice. Think about it. Think about it. So, how much of your personality you give up? Hmm? Hmm. So, this is sacrifice. So, these now, how do these three values come to you? How can you believe in these three values? The true Hindu believes in these values only because he understands that the truth in me is the truth in him. We are all one. The entire universe is one family. Vasudeva Kutumbakam, isn't it? That is the Hindu virtue. That the whole world is one family and should be treated as one. So when you consider everybody as your family, whom are you going to not, why will you not give to that person? Why will you not sacrifice for that person, isn't it? So this is given over here. The next value is charity we have done here, okay? Sacrifice we have done, and the study of the scriptures. This is Swadhyaya. Taittiriya Upanishad has again and again the teacher telling the student that do your Swadhyaya every day, every day, every day. And not only do the Swadhyaya, but it is Swadhyaya Pravachanecha. That means talk about what you have studied also to someone else. When you are talking about what you already know, what you have already studied in the scriptures, when you talk about it to someone else, then it becomes firm in your understanding and there is a clarity in your understanding. That is the reason Swami Chinmayanand opened so many study groups. So that not only you are hearing from the teacher regularly, studying your own, and also you are talking to others on the same subject. So it becomes absolutely firm in your own mind. And this should be regular study, regular practice, regular study, regular practice. Only then you can practice charity, restraint of the senses, and sacrifice. Because unless you do this thing, it will not happen. Another, come to the next value, that is asceticism, that is tapa, that is disciplines that you impose on yourself. Okay, so all your passions, your desires, your emotions, your hungers should be under your control. If they are not under your control, that is not called tapa. Tapa is self discipline. Basically, it is self discipline. Mind you, tapa is not torturing yourself. Nobody is asking you to stand on one leg and or keep looking at the sun. You will go blind in a little while. Standing on one leg all the time, you will have some deformity in your spine very soon. Or you will have vertigo, or you will fall, or something or the other will happen. That is not tapa. Torturing yourself is definitely not tapa, but imposing self disciplines and controls on yourself is called tapa. Any inconvenience that you go through to gain higher knowledge, huh, or to practice any good value is called tapa. See, even when you come to a satsang, when you go for a satsang, you leave everything else and you give priority to the satsang. You travel all through the way, through traffic, through inconvenience. You leave everything and hurry up in the morning, get ready and go only because you want to attend that satsang. That is tapa. You have done that tapas to reach the place to hear the master talk. So even that is tapas. Okay? Okay, then next is uprightness. This is called arjavam. Hmm? Uprightness means absolute straightforwardness. Straightforwardness. And that straightforwardness, not only in actions, you have to be totally truthful to yourself in thoughts, in your feelings, emotions, and in your actions. So all this has to be in one line. Not that you think something else and you do something else and you say something else. No, they have all to be in one straight line. Otherwise, as Gurudev has said, you develop a split personality. And a split personality loses total power of the mind. You know, the mind is very, very powerful, very powerful. And when the mind is focused in one direction, it can take you places, it can get you siddhis, it can evolve you. But that mind, if it is channelized into, I thought something, I said something else, and I did something totally other, then what have you done? You have split your personality. There is a split in your mind, your intellect. There is a split in your physical body, mind, and intellect. BMI, body, mind, and intellect, has three different angles. They lose power. Many times I have given you the example of a river. When it is dammed on both the sides and it is going in one direction, the water has a lot of force. And when it is dammed and only one sluice is open, then it can generate even electricity. That much of power it has. But if you keep cutting canals into the river, so some water flows this side, some this side, some that side, the water loses its velocity, it loses its power, isn't it? Similar are Similar is the thought pattern, and the body, mind, and intellect should be in one direction. There should be no crookedness, there should be no double facedness, nothing. And so then Gurudev says that that split personality will not happen, and otherwise, you lose, your words lose power. Your words only have strength when there is total satyam, there is total tapas in your personality. Only then do your words have the power to change the other person or to lift the other person to higher levels of thinking and behaving. And unless and until you yourself are like that, your words do not have power. You may be using the same words as your teacher used. But since you have done no tapas, your words lose the strength. वाणी में शक्ति तप से आती है. It is written in our scriptures. वाणी की शक्ति तप से आती है. That is why when the Mahatmas, the great Siddha Purush, वो कई बार आप लोगों से कहते हैं, आप एक बार अपने मुंह से कह दीजिए. क्यों कह दीजिए? Because whatever they say will come true, or whatever they say is the truth alone. Their words have that much of power. So at least we can cultivate some by aligning our personality into one clear direction. Okay? So these values are just not some values just given outright here and there. These are important values. That is why Hinduism gives it the sanctity of putting them into the Geeta. These are words of the Acharya himself. And who is the Acharya here? The Lord himself. It is not me speaking or Swami Chinmayananda speaking. This is the Lord himself speaking. He is valuing these values and telling you that if you lose these values, these ethics, if you live by, then you will have a solid foundation on which the strength of your personality will be built. Okay, so this much for today. We will do verse 2 next time. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.